Anything exciting going on?
Well, at the beginning of this month, I went to Texas and saw the solar eclipse. So that was fun. But
That was fun.
That's kind of where my month peaked.
Oh. Is there anything you want to share about it on the show or no?
It's I mean, it's hard to describe. Like, it's a really cool thing. Like, video of it doesn't do it justice. It's an amazing experience. So, if you're in the U.S. in 2045, go see it in the southern U.S.
Good luck to you guys to go find it there.
Yeah, it's something to live for.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a Clow card that's like Eclipse or something.
There is an eclipse in the series, but it's way at the end.
Oh, okay. So we'll wait to talk about
but
that.
But there's a light and dark card, and Kiro and Yue are sun and moon. But yeah, there is not until the end of the series where we get one.
Okay. Oh, yeah, and then other things about card captors happened while you were gone. I got some more of the VHS stuff, but then I found a few of the new sealed ones for not that much. And I guess for a while they were giving away these, like, they call it a free standee or whatever while supplies last.
Yep.
Are those the little, like, clear plastic? Because I haven't opened it yet.
Yeah, they're little clear plastic. I don't know which ones offhand come in, but there's like a Sakura one, there's a Lee one, there's a Kira one. I think those are the three I have. I may have another one. But yeah, I don't know if they all came with one or if it was just limited to a few tapes.
I think it was only certain ones, but I haven't seen all of them sealed yet. So, well, in fun fan creation news, I found a handy dandy VHS slipcover template. And I've been designing like novelty ones just that I'm going to give out for free for fun stuff. But I was thinking about it, and I might make myself my own like Nelvana complete release and like fill in the gaps and just kind of design it in the same way that they were doing.
Interesting, with the sloppy Photoshop of just stock art.
I might make it a little less, whatever, but it's just fun and it's like a cute novelty thing. I don't know. I might enjoy doing that. So, because there seems to be like this weird VHS community that I've discovered, and people putting like new movies onto old technology, kind of like how people do vinyl still.
You know what? If we get a big pile of tapes, yeah, we could put card captors. We could put the entire VHS line of card captors out, because it's not like Nelvana's going to do it.
I'm just saying. It's not hard to do. I'll send you the template, but yeah, I've been messing around with it, and it's fun. So
I could use the template, but now I got to figure out where I can get a bunch of blank VHS. I'm sure someone's got a warehouse full of them, and like, oh man, if only someone would buy these from me. It's like, as it happens to be, I need a large amount of VHSs.
I hope so. But yeah, that's been fun. Well, I'm sure other people have had their own stuff going on, so we could dig into card captors a little. Was there anything else card captors related I wanted to ask you?
I don't know. In terms of what's happening with card captor stuff right now, I've got a bunch of Nendroids that are pre-ordered because they finally release a UA Nendroid, so gonna have one of those.
What is a Nendroid?
You know those little chibi anime figures?
Like the Funko Pop?
Well, yeah, but they're way better than Funko Pops because, like, A, they're not ugly, right, and B, they're tiny and posable. They're like little chibi figures instead of like full size figure, or like full proportion figures.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure
these are new.
No, the line has been around for years. Cardcaptor Sakura has had a few of them. The first ones were released back in like 2015, and they're just now giving UA one. Sakura's getting a newer version of it because they're updating Nendroids to be like more jointed and have actual like cloth clothes instead of just the vinyl clothes. So yeah, there's a few of those. There's a lot of Sakura merch coming out this year. My poor wallet.
Right. See, that's why I'm glad I'm so obsessed with the old stuff, because I'm like, they're not going to be new items from the 90s. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a set amount of things to collect.
Yeah, they're finite and more expensive.
True, that part, but that's true. And then also, I should actually do this with the card captors ones. I posted some of the Sailor Moon VHS in like a non-specified VHS collectors thing, and everyone was like losing it over how pretty they are. Oh. And I think some of the card captors tapes. I specifically Star Power is my favorite, actually, the American one. But then also the original Cardcaptors movie cover, like the clamshell is pretty nice.
Yeah, the one we use for our part of the icon is from that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always loved that image of her. Who drew that? Do you know?
Actually, yeah, I think that artwork is credited. I'd probably have to find the poster because I know it's credited somewhere, but do I have it? Despite my best efforts, I could not figure out who the artist was.
Speaking of which, because we're on 9
Yes.
today, in the official order, what is this in the Nelvana order?
In the North American Nelvana order, this is episode 2, and it's the first Cardcaptors episode that I ever watched.
Is it really?
Yeah, because
do you remember where you saw it?
I missed the debut. I watched it on Kids WB. I just missed the debut episode either because it was airing like Monday through Friday and I didn't watch Monday, or it was like once a week on Saturday and I just missed the first week. So this episode was my introduction to Cardcaptor Soccer.
I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say I remember it being on the Saturday morning lineup.
I think that was its original. I know it was on the Saturday lineup at some point because that's how I was watching it in its later run. But I think it maybe went to weekdays when it went to Toonami for like one run.
Probably.
But I think on Kids WB it was playing on Saturdays. So, like I said, I think I just missed the debut.
If I could like snapshot any time period of television, including all of the ads and everything, and just have it in like my computer in HD format, it would be the Toonami broadcasts of that era. You know what I mean? When it was like Cardcaptors and Sailor Moon, it was like a very specific time that didn't last very long.
Yeah, I suppose so. I have the Toonami bumper for Cardcaptors.
You've been chosen to get the Clow cards back. That's what you gotta be worried about.
But yeah, those are fun.
This being the first episode you saw, it probably is pretty special for you, right?
You would think, and I like the episode overall, like even like from Cardcaptor Sakura side or Cardcaptor's side, like I still like the overall plot of how this one goes, and it's one of the few stories from the manga that's more or less one-to-one when they brought it, because like the Cardcaptor Sakura manga has a lot of the same cards, but they tell different stories with a lot of the cards. This is one of the ones where for the most part it follows the same, so they brought it like straight over from the manga.
One of the other ones that did that was Jump, right?
No, one of the other ones that I know that did that more or less, Watery was more or less the same plot, except it happened at the school instead of an aquarium.
Okay.
I think the Illusion card episode, the Illusion card story was more or less the same, except it was over a lake instead of over a cliff. So, Sakura almost drowns instead of falls to her death. And I haven't read the manga as many times as I've seen the anime, but I'm pretty sure those are the only times where the manga was like more or less one-to-one for how it happened in the anime. Like most of the other cards that were capped. Oh, and the mirror card. The mirror card is that's Double Take, and that one is, I think that's episode 16 or 20 something. It's one of those, but yeah, in the manga they're basically the same story.
Right. Well, that's interesting to know. Not that many are like that, I guess. Maybe just a handful. And then in this episode, we get to see her use a card that I was saying I wanted to see her use, so I'm excited for that. We'll let them try to guess what that is until we get there, I guess.
I'm trying to think about it. I mean, she only uses 2 in this episode, so it's one or the other.
Right. But let's go into it, I guess, like do the recap and everything.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about episode 2, Double-Edged Sword, or Cardcaptor Sakura episode, The Mysterious Brooch.
But I think it is kind of funny because, like we were saying, it was originally on Saturday morning cartoons. So the way this one started, it felt like they had that in mind. Does that make sense?
You should be feeling great because of your card capture last night.
Yeah, well...
Force, know my plight. Release the light! You are looking at Raiju, the Thunder Beast. Boy, you are hopeless.
Back off. The Windy card will take care of this.
Here, put it away. Windy can't stand up against Thunder.
Yeah, I think so, because it's like, well, because this episode begins with a bit of recap stuff.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like a built-in previously on, but it's actually part of the dialogue.
Yeah, which is interesting because, like, it's like the original Cardcaptor Sakura also begins with this same recap. Like, so this is not one of those times where Cardcaptors had to edit in their recap. It's like, no, this was how the episode was told originally. So they actually had to cut stuff out of this simply because they always had to cut a little bit for time, but they cut a few scenes of Tomoyo kind of chasing after Sakura, trying to catch up to her. So in Cardcaptors, she kind of more or less catches up to her immediately.
It seems like stuff that was just not story important, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've said over and over, like every Cardcaptors episode has 2 or 3 minutes that they had to cut for time. So, little snip here and there, just to, a second here, a second there, and you get to it.
Exactly. They were pretty good about how, like, finding those moments where it was like, no one will miss this.
Yeah, especially if Julian's in it. No one will miss that at all.
Which we get a little more of him this week, so that's exciting.
He survives this episode as well.
Yeah, but after the flashback to the Thunder card capture, Madison and Sakura are kind of discussing what happened, and what is Sakura's kind of overall attitude about all of this?
Okay, I'm probably confusing part of this with the part that comes after. Like, Sakura's kind of like, in the original version, she's kind of unsure of herself because of how she was shown up by Shaoran, whereas in this episode, I think she's kind of the same sort of, I don't know, doubting herself a little bit. In Cardcaptors, would that be fair to say?
Yeah, she seemed bummed out. Like, she kind of relayed what happened and said he saved her, but she didn't seem like happy about it.
Don't you see, Madison? If Lee hadn't shown up when he did, I could have been in big trouble.
No, she doesn't, especially in the following scene where Lee is in the room, and boy, she just turns the sass up to 11.
Look, Lee. Last night, thank you for your help.
Huh?
I mean, I appreciate you being there, but I won't need your help next time.
It's like I said, you don't have a clue. You're no card captor.
What? Well then, maybe you can tell me why I was chosen to open the Clow book if I'm not a card captor.
Yeah.
Like, so this is one of those. This is probably like the first really good example of like where the show really changed Sakura's personality to be more like assertive. And I don't even want to say assertive because assertive would be positive. She's just she's
being a little bit overly direct.
Direct, overly defensive. I wouldn't say snobby, but like she's just kind of tearing into Lee. That is like, I had that. I didn't need your help. I'm good enough to be a card captor, even if I don't have fancy robe.
I mean, it's not like I've been studying this my whole life or anything, like some people. And I know I don't have robes.
Those are the Lee family ceremonial robes. You have no right to talk about them.
Hey, take it easy, Lee. Come on.
She throws in a little
She
bit
is kind of being a little bit of a jerk, like you were saying.
Just throw in a little bit of cultural insensitivity.
Well, that's what I guess was required at the time. So that's the best way we could explain it.
It was the early 2000s.
Yeah. No, I agree. But also, I did think it was kind of like, how do I say it? She was dismissing him kind of while also thanking him at the same time. It was a little bit like a backhanded compliment, basically.
It's a little bit. It was very much a thanks for your help, but don't help me again.
Yeah.
Which is entirely contrary to what her line was in Cardcaptor Sakura, where she was just genuinely being nice. And it's on in the sub, it's on Shaoran to be kind of the jerk about it by calling her like unfit to be the card captor.
I don't know exactly why they made that choice. I think it is part of what you're saying, like they wanted to toughen her up a little bit. You could also tell that it was a change in the tone, because if you pay attention to her face, she does not at all fit the like tone of that conversation.
Yeah, like all through these scenes where like, yes, the words coming out of her mouth are aggressive and assertive, but her face is timid and like I don't know if apologetic is, but yeah, you're right. Like the dialogue and the face do not match here, like at all.
To be fair, though, her making that comment about the robe and then him getting mad about it, that does feel like a more real kind of conversation that might have happened in a classroom of that time. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's more likely that someone would have said something insensitive about somebody's clothing that was a cultural thing, and then that would have caused an issue, probably in the early 2000s versus now, I would assume.
Yeah, like there's
So,
something
I mean,
to that.
yeah.
It's not crazy, but like, yeah, it's probably one of them. I don't know. I think we're gonna notice it more because, like, obviously in the first few episodes where they didn't have to edit around Lee being in the show, I feel like they let the more authentic Sakura kind of exist in the show. But now that we're in like the episodes that aired in North America, where there was this mentality of we got to make sure that Cardcaptors is good for boys and girls, so we got to have both of these characters like aggressive and rivaling each other so that they're really competing. Like we got to get those sparks flying. It's like that. It guys, it feels like you're overdoing it a little bit.
Yeah, and it is a little over the top here. I'm curious because I don't remember the rest of the season quite as well, so I want to see if it is like a contrast. But I definitely noticed it being like, oh wow, that was kind of a lot. But then right after that, Zachary appears, who I completely forgot existed until I saw him, and then I was like, oh yeah, I love this guy.
I'm class president, and you're new around here.
So?
I assign classroom duties. You have to clean up, wash up, and brush up.
Because he's ridiculous.
It's okay. It's he's a bit of set dressing, but yes, he's very he's memorable. Because his contributions are, which I enjoyed how they redubbed him for this one, because in both cases it's basically like he comes in to kind of like dispel the tension in the moment, but it kind of feels like in the American version, in the Nelvana dub, it actually kind of feels like he's being more overt, like I'm coming in to break you two up before this gets hostile.
Yeah. And he also is just sort of like has this kind of dopey energy about him. And if you pay attention in the background when him and Lee are doing whatever, he kind of is just like standing there with a dumb look on his face.
Oh yeah.
So there's just little like things like that. I think he's meant to be, if for anyone who gets the reference, like the Kimmy Gibbler from Full House. Do you know what I mean?
Never watched it. Even though I was a 90s kid, I never watched it.
Quirky neighbor character.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. And
yeah.
he is he is a goofball in both the sub and the dub. I think like he's one of the characters who they really don't change. They simply had to just change what it was he was talking about. That's really the only thing they did. They go in sort of their own direction with Zachary versus Yamazaki, but he still fits the bill for the character perfectly.
But after that scene, there's like a dream, which at first I was like, is this another flashback? What's happening? And then she's woken up by her slightly sassy teacher, who I think we talked about a little bit.
Miss Avalon!
Huh?
Welcome back.
Last time.
Yes,
And-
Tirana Sensei.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who there's literally nothing in the series to talk about.
Not at all. But I just love that, to me, without us discussing what we already talked about, or like what I mean is like if I hadn't known that, he literally just comes off as like he could possibly be gay, maybe. Like that's how he reads in the Nelvana dub to me. And I appreciate that to the original.
Okay.
So in my headcanon, he's the probably gay but no one is sure teacher.
Is it the hips? Is it the way he stands?
It's the way he talks and the way and a little bit of the movement. But he was and also his dialogue is sort of like sassy.
Oh, he is definitely sassy. I'll give you that. See, for me, it doesn't really stand out because like everyone in Cardcaptors is a little sassy.
True.
Even Madison is got a little bite to her.
She does sometimes, yeah.
That's-
She randomly just plays jokes on Sakura, I think.
She does, and that's probably like the most of her edge. But like in the last episode where she had kind of a dismissive quote at Lee, it was good. She is savage in her own way. And
yeah, the thing that I do find funny about the adults in this show, though, is they're all like 8 billion feet taller than the kids.
there is a bit of a height disparity that might not be accurate, but like, yeah, if I put up a height chart for the Cardcaptor cast, you will notice that a lot of the characters are exceptionally tall, including Toya, who is like the tallest human in the cast. He's tall.
Yeah, I would imagine he looks like it like, just that part stood out.
Like he's a tall, slender fellow, and actually like personal thing for me. Like I went to back in 2018, I went to the NHK Museum, which is the broadcasting studio that plays Cardcaptor Sakura in Japan, and they had an exhibit of all the anime that they were playing at the time, which happened to be Cardcaptor Clear Card. So they had what I presumed were life-size standees of all of the characters, including Toya, and Toya is taller than I am. By like 2 or 3 inches. Like they put the picture up. Like he's very tall.
That's hilarious. I want to see more of that kind of thing. It reminds me kind of like the Pokemon thing, where they find some Pokemon and that they have the height listed and they put it next to Ash, and it's like Clefairy or something, or Clefable, and it's like a 2-story building for no reason.
It's like how Charizard is like, you look at Charizard and you think it's like, oh man, he's a huge beast, and then you actually look at his height and he's like, no, Charizard's like 4'11". Like,
it's like not actually that
like,
big.
He looks big compared to a 10-year-old, but actually I think that Charizard's like 5'11", which would still be barely taller than me. I don't want to make it sound like I am a tall person.
I am.
I'm not even
taller.
I'm not even 6 foot tall.
Oh no, I would be a little bit taller than you, but still probably shorter than some of these characters, I would imagine. So we also have to deal with Rita. Who
we have to talk.
I have to say, had I not known any of that, and I'd watched this episode as a kid not knowing any of that, I never clocked anything weird.
No, the Cardcaptors does a good job of cutting around it, because Cardcaptor Sakura already did a good job of cutting around what was way more explicit in the manga.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. So it seems like after the manga, they already were kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, the anime definitely decided like, oh, we are not touching this one. It's like we're gonna put in a couple of frames to like nod to the people who have read the manga, be like, hey, we see you, but we're not acknowledged. But yeah,
who wrote the original manga? What's the name of the creator?
It's a 4-lady troupe called Clamp.
Oh, I knew it was Clamp. I didn't know if it was like, because you know how Sailor Moon is Naoko Takeuchi.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if
well,
it
she
was
did
like
it on her own.
one
Like
person.
Clamp did the whole thing. I think.
Did they ever comment on that?
Oh boy, the Clamp people are gonna come after me if I say this wrong. I believe it's Nanase Okawa was the main story writer for Cardcaptor Sakura, because she's also the storyboarder for most of the episodes of the anime. So she's like the lead Cardcaptor one of the group. Like they rotate between like who is in charge of which series. So I think it was Okawa who is in charge of Cardcaptor. So yeah, blame her. It was her idea.
Well, I'm just saying, it's like they're the ones who would want to probably make a comment about it eventually.
They have. If I don't know where exactly this article is. I just remember like just quoting offhand that it's like they wanted to make a series where all relationships were explored and valid. And yeah, they took that to extremes.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
But also you got to remember that, because of course we're talking about this, you got to remember that in shoujo, like student-teacher relationship was a common romantic shoujo trope at the time.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, usually the girl was in high school, or at the very least middle school. This was it's a little too far in the other direction. So, but yeah,
agree.
A bit of a swing and a miss on this one, but they went for it. But the anime was like, no, we're not going for it. And then Nelvana got the dub, and they're like, we're definitely not going for it.
And you know what? It's not missed.
It's not. You do not notice it's missing. They make Rita's awkwardness around Tarada to be like she's just afraid of an overbearing teacher.
Test tomorrow. Rita, you need to pass this one.
I know, sir.
Exactly, which I thought was kind of like a good way to play it, and it seemed to fit the narrative easily because they were sort of really ambiguous about her story in general. Like, we don't know much about her.
Yeah, we don't, and the worst thing about her in the Nelvana dub is the fact that she says Sakura.
How you doing, Sakura?
She really gets that coo at it. Like,
oh, she does have a funny voice.
I gotta have like a super cut of like how all the characters say Sakura's name.
I wonder why it is like that.
Because it's a bunch of Canadian actors trying to say a Japanese.
I love it.
No one can agree.
No one agrees, so it's all just different. I mean, hey, that's life. Everyone pronounces things differently. So there you go. They gave us an accidentally realistic dub.
Yeah, especially when it's a foreign.
Yeah. So we see the three girls after Sakura keeps spacing out, and they kind of start discussing Rita. They go into this, I guess it's it's not a jewelry store. It looks like a thrift shop.
Hold on, guys. Sakura, I gotta go in here.
Okay. I've been wanting to check this store out.
This place sure has great stuff, Sakura.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Right?
kind of like a curio shop. Like, it just has a bunch of stuff in it. This is only a slight change where the sub they actually intended to go there because Rita wanted to buy something, whereas the Card Captors dub changed it to be a spontaneous like, hey, we're walking home and oh look, there's this cool place, let's go in it.
Yeah, that's why I was like, what is this? They're just kind of suddenly here.
Yeah, there's slightly more reason, but to be honest, it's not like we didn't have episode 5 where they want to just go to Twin Bells. So going to a random store is really not out of the ordinary for Cardcaptor Soft.
And I tend to fill in stuff like with my imagination. So to me, I'm just like, oh, this is just a store that they like know about from living there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's why they're there. It's on the way home, whatever. But they're looking at these brooches.
Yeah.
And there's several things here, but the three of them choose one each. Sakura gets this like heart with wings. Mm-hmm. Madison gets a cross, and then Rita gets the sword, which is double-edged sword. Clearly, if you're paying attention, we're like, oh hey.
It's kind of like super broadcast with the way that like they zoom in on it, and it's like it's got this extra sparkle. It's like, oh wow, this isn't like suspicious at all.
Yeah, and it's like just her choosing it. They have them make the comment, oh, it's a whole new side of you.
I've gotta have this one.
I've never thought of you as the sword type.
That's a whole new side to you.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
We never. It's like, oh, I wonder what's gonna happen. Whatever. It's
I never thought of you in sword. It's like, yeah, it's cool. It's like, yeah, the sword is just like calling to her.
Well, I think what they're alluding to is it's going to possess her and make her act out of character. But we do get this great moment that I loved with Kiro in video games, and he's playing on a beanbag.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Come on.
Hero, we've got company, so you can't come downstairs.
Okay.
And I just thought all of us who grew up in the, 70s, 80s, 90s, let's just have a moment for beanbags. Because they were a thing. Did you ever have one?
I'm pretty sure I had a beanbag.
I had two. And this was like when I was little, my parents got me one that had like my name on it, and I used it so much that I got flattened. So
that happens. The beans in there eventually get crushed.
Yeah, but I loved that when I was a kid. They were great. Now as an adult, I have a back to worry about, so we don't.
Yeah, they're not comfortable anymore.
But they are fun.
It's interesting what you and I like focus on because like you're looking at his beanbag. I'm looking at like this is the first time I think we've seen Kuro's what I like to call the Super Nintendo PlayStation, because it's kind of like a hybrid of an SNES and a PlayStation, but the sounds that are coming out of it are like Pac-Man, because it's just like the most stock basic video game sound that they've been using since the 80s.
It's so fun. I love when he does that stuff though, like that we get to see that.
Oh yeah, we'll actually get to see some of the games he plays from time to time, but I don't think this episode actually showed what he was playing. It was just it was just sounds on the screen.
But is it right away? What does he talk to her about? Because I was distracted by that.
All she was doing was telling him that they have a non-magical guest downstairs and just stay upstairs and keep playing video games.
Oh, okay.
That was it. It was just stay up here. We've got uninitiated company over.
Gotcha. Because then I remember right away they were trying to spell brooch.
Yeah, because
that conversation made me laugh.
Because they have yet another spelling test, or just more schoolwork. Because again, that's all of these. I shouldn't find it weird that kids have schoolwork to do, but it's
because it doesn't fit. Like, their age is they're too old to be having spelling tests, so you can tell that it was like a clumsily added thing.
You think
know
so?
what I mean?
Were there no spelling tests in 4th grade?
4th grade?
Were we
No.
were we past that?
You're on vocab in 4th grade.
I guess, yeah.
Like, spelling and stuff, that's literally like 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade. You should already be like learning cursive if you're still on. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're probably harder spelling in 3rd grade. It's like mixed. But yeah, 4th grade, if they are doing a spelling test, brooch isn't on it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. I guess it has been a long time. I just turned so it's been a long time since I've been in elementary school, so.
Right. I have a educator brain, so
yeah,
I can notice that stuff. But I think that's why, because it comes off as an unnatural thing, and then also they sort of do just bring it up out of the blue.
Yeah,
all the time,
because like I was saying, like the way that they kind of wrote around Rita's awkwardness around Torado was that they kind of wrote it like she's just kind of afraid of him and like she's nervous about the test. So like, well, let's practice our spelling in 4th grade, because that's, as you said, that's
they have to
totally
do
what
something.
4th graders do is they work on spelling instead of science projects or whatever nonsense project they're always working.
You know why they probably chose spelling, actually? Because it was one of the few things you could do that didn't require any kind of animation to support it.
True, they could just kind of fill in whatever dialogue they wanted.
Yeah, if they were any more specific or any more creative, it would have been like, why are they talking about like, the chemical table right now when they're like playing with brooches. Every time I see it, I want to say brooch. But anyway, so the thing, her brooch turns into a real sword.
It sure does. It's a great scene where she just kind of goes limp, and then suddenly, bam, there's a sword in her hand, and she's going all stabby.
Yeah. It's basically like she's getting possessed, which I've been watching Supernatural for fun again, that old show. So it's a little bit like a mild version of that. And for some reason, I really remember these scenes. And this is when I was like, I'm pretty sure that it aired here, and it was on a VHS, and it's on, for North America, the 2nd volume, which is called Power Match. Mm-hmm. And it was the 2nd episode. So I had that one as a kid, so I've seen this a bunch.
I think they used scenes from this in a lot of the marketing too, because it's one of the show's more dynamic scenes.
Yeah, the sword fight with her.
Yeah, especially because it's also like, it's a moment where Sakura is actually in like genuine danger. She's being stabbed or attempting to be stabbed.
Yeah, and not only that is she's at a handicap because the thing is like controlling her friend that she doesn't want to hurt. Mm-hmm. So there's that added layer of like, how do I do this gently? Which makes it interesting. What does she end up doing to resolve this?
Oh, so
she's just getting attacked now. How does she get away?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, do we want to jump on, because they were jumping basically to the end of the episode? Like, yeah, like, no. So Rita attacks and she has to get out of the house, and of course, we have the horror movie trope of like, for some reason I can't open this door from the inside.
on! Open! Come on! Come on! Oh, come on!
It's like stuck. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
It's like, of all the times for this door to just, oh no, I don't know how to operate a lock.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't blame card captors on that one. It's just like that in Card Captor Sakura too. So it's like, yeah, you had to fill like 10 seconds. Okay. Build some tension.
See, that could have been a cut. And they could have left in nothing else in this episode, actually. So
they could have, but I'm glad they didn't, because this scene also has and this is going to be the thumbnail for this episode, the Tomoyo Wojak face. Is in this, where like she's in the hall because Kiro comes down and it's like, what's the commotion? It's like, wait, I smell pudding, and then it cuts to Tomoyo like pointing down the hallway, and it's like the meme of the two like scribbled guys like pointing to something in the distance. It's like, it's Tomoyo making that face. Like,
oh my gosh,
10 years before that meme even exists. It's her. It's a Wojak Tomoyo. So
that's hilarious.
That's gonna be the thumbnail for this. But yeah, so Sakura gets chased outside, loses her slippers while Rita is continuing to try and stab at her, and Kiro has to talk her into. It's like, hey, you're gonna have to deal with this, and and Sakura doesn't want to, but yeah, she got to pull out the key, and I think this is definitely not the first time is this the first time we've ever seen her do the casting animation?
Oh, it did stand out to me.
Yeah, I think this actually is the first episode where like this is the first time where she does the actual like the full production like cutaway casting for her wand. Like, I think this is the first time.
Yeah. Which her wand casting is one of the things that drew me into the show, because they put it in, I think, a lot of the previews when they were hyping it up.
Yeah, because they did it in episode 2 where like they kind of did it as plot elements that Tomoyo was telling her. It's like, hey, you've got to do a pose, and you kind of see it. But this is, like I said, this is the first time where like it cuts to the dark blue background and her magic circle under her, and like for the stock animation, so they can do this again and again with her wearing other costumes. So she's wearing her uniform for this one. But yeah, like I said, I think, come to think of it, now that we're talking about it, I think this is the first time that full animation was used in the show.
I would love to see cells of it, like to see what layers and frames and stuff was all like separated from her.
You can actually. They come up on Yahoo Walk every so often. They're called bank cells, where basically it's basically a nude Sakura that's drawn, and then they animate the costume on that base cell each time. So
really?
There's like a flat like Barbie anatomy version of Sakura that is the base animation that they use. It's called a bank cell. So it's got her with her fully animated hair, so they don't have to animate that
redo
part
every time.
Yeah. But every episode, the clothing is reanimated on top of that.
That's a lot of work.
Yes, but it's a lot less work to just do the clothes rather than like the entire body and all of her hair. So
not only that, but it lets them elevate the quality on the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they don't have to do it every time.
Yeah, and like they can actually have like the clothes fluttering because like, oh well, I only have to animate the clothes. I don't have to animate the rest of it.
Right. That's actually a really nice way to do it. And I think some people might complain about stuff like that, but it's just part of the way that hand. It's
how animation works. It's shortcuts and copying animation. Like Sakura's a magical girl. She does get copied animation, but she stood out from like her contemporaries, the Pierrot girls from the 80s and Sailor Moon of the 90s, that her animations changed every time.
Yes, which is true. That is the thing, is like with the Sailor Moon stuff, they change it per season sometimes. Mm-hmm. But then even then, certain characters don't always get updates. And it does kind of, after a while of 50 episodes, you're like, I've seen the same.
Yeah. The closest I know is, as I've been watching it, is Kaito Saint-Tail. While she doesn't change outfits every single episode, her transformation does have like 2 or 3 of the her transformation does have 2 or 3 of the outfits integrated into it. But I imagine it was done the same way, because like part of that episode, like you could see the top of her shoulders where she isn't wearing anything. So it's like, yeah, that is a bank cell. It's just they didn't animate anything on top of it for that part.
Right. So we get the bank cells.
That was just a cutaway for animation technicals for all of you.
I'm interested in that part of it. I don't know who else, if the people listening are, but I like to know. Because it's something that is kind of like a dying art. But, stuff gets revitalized all the time. You never know. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I remember after this part when she does the full cast, which to me, it stood out because it kind of happened during an action moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it did feel a little weird in that way. But she ends up using jump.
What are you, nuts? You don't play nice with the sword card staring you in the face, Sakura.
To get away first.
Which
and
the second time that she's used jump, but yeah. I was thinking,
maybe.
No, it is. She used it in the previous episode.
Okay.
Like, for me... sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it right away is kind of like, you can tell that she's taking a more tactical, gentle approach, rather than pulling another card first. What were you going to say?
I was saying, like I said at the beginning, where like this was the first episode I'd ever seen, so I really didn't understand like what the rules were of the show yet. I just kind of thought like, when she pulled out the wand and some wings appeared on her feet, I was like, oh, that's like her default, like she just gets wing feet. I was like, no, that's not like an every cast thing. That's just like. That's one of the things that she does. Like I said, it was just a simple like, oh yeah, it's me who missed the first episode. I don't understand how this show works yet, but I'm enjoying what I'm seeing.
I would have kind of assumed that too, I think, right away. And it's interesting that the other card you got to see her use first was the illusion card.
Yeah, that's how she ends up settling it. But before she gets to that, we get another confrontation with Lee where he shows up and saves her. Like, he steps in and blocks the sword, and then she goes right into sassing him again.
What are you doing? Did you hear? You're no card captor.
Are you two all right? Yeah, no thanks to him.
Well, is the commercial break before or after she sasses him?
I think they insert a commercial break. Like, it's not in the sub. They have to add that fade for the card captors dub. But yes, I think Lee shows up and then there is a cut where a commercial would have been in the broadcast version, and then it comes right back in, and then like Sakura's just sassing him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a little again like, why are you mad?
It's like the girl, he just like helped you. It's like, I get it, like you're telling him, it's like, no, you can't hurt Rita, but it's like, again, it's just the difference between like the sub and the dub, where in the sub she's also genuinely concerned about Rita, and she's saying, no, you can't hurt her, we got, like, you can't fight her with your sword, versus in the dub where she's just like, I'm just gonna play it because I don't really remember like exactly, but like the tone was just so different.
Well, she was mad. And it is kind of funny that you were saying now that he's here, her attitude is kind of changing, because I am noticing it as we recap this episode.
Yeah, especially because, like, again, like the other scene, the dialogue and her expressions do not match up.
No. So I don't know. It's starting to become a little more obvious that they were really building that. Well, now that I think about it, I think it's why I never really bought them as an item. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. In card captors, they kind of bicker way too much.
That, and it seemed almost like I don't think these people actually like each other that much, and not like a flirting thing, Yeah,
I think they kind of tried to manufacture. I don't know if. See, it's weird because like card captors, spoiler, doesn't include the Xiaosaku romance at all. So. If they weren't even trying to manufacture a more confrontational, like, love-hate relationship like you get with, like, Inuyasha and Kagome, where they're constantly fighting but they care about each other, like, they weren't even trying to go that angle in Card Captors because they cut out the relationship entirely by the end.
Yeah.
So it's just weird.
It is a little... That is one of the choices that's a little strange.
That is a choice that Card Captors definitely made.
But... they're become like so once he saves her, and then obviously they're not going to attack her with a sword. What's the new goal? What are they supposed to be doing?
Yeah, so this is where she uses illusion to distract Rita long enough so they can get the sword out of her hand. So she casts illusion, and this is where another big change happens, where in the dub they have her, they say, illusion, become the thing that Rita is afraid of, and in the sub it's become the thing, or become the person that Rita cares about the most, I think is the wording they use. But it's the Japanese kind of like subtext of like, the person she likes, whatever. I'd have to look at what the actual Japanese was spoken. But yeah, it's just the silhouette of Terada, which is what she says before Sakura kind of like, oh yeah, right, I'm supposed to be doing something, and goes and slaps the sword out of her hand.
Yeah, and I could tell what the change was because I knew the story behind it, but again, like it fit pretty easily into the narrative they had already set up, so it seemed to make sense.
Yeah,
and it kind of did go with her animation well enough,
Yeah, it wasn't at the very least, this one wasn't a big lift.
No. Now that I've seen her use the illusion card, it wasn't as like, it kind of wasn't what I was hoping for with it. Does she use it again?
She does use it again later in the series, and it's probably more to your liking in that case.
Because to me, I was thinking like a little more grandiose than just kind of like a person figure that's not defined. You know what I mean? Because it's magical illusion. It should be able to do more than that.
Yeah, I totally get you. Like I said, they do use it for another thing later in the series. I think they just they still had that effect, that illusion effect going. They just wanted to use that again.
Oh, okay.
Which for any of you who, just to animation nerd, again, all that is just, they cut out the cell, and then they ran the illusion background under it. It's classic animation is fascinating. Okay, it's great. And the series was done without computers. To my knowledge, there was minimal use of computers. This was done in the late 90s. So like,
it looks to me like at the most they use computers to maybe smooth out some of the colors.
Maybe, and that really depends. Well, that really depends. Like, because like we've been watching the 1080p versions, so I'm pretty sure those have already been color corrected a little bit.
Probably.
If you were looking at if you're looking at more original versions, I don't think computers were used on this series at all, other than card captors, which notably the opening sequence where the cards are fluttering out of the book, like that's all CGI. That's original to card captors. So computers were used there.
Right. Wait, you mean in the intro?
Yeah.
You said? Oh, yeah, no, that part, yes.
Yeah, where they do
that's what I was going to say.
Card captors.
The CGI of the time is more clockable.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Like I said, that's original to card captors. That's not part of Card Captor Sakura, so.
No, and I like that they took the swing on that, though, because I did enjoy that as a kid, and I still kind of do.
Well, it was 2001. If you could pay a computer animator to do something, you were going to do it.
Yeah, yeah. There's kind of a meatier, I don't know what word to use, but there's like more to the episode after the capture than usual, to me anyway. Is that true?
Yeah, it does kind of. Yeah, there's like an entire extra few scenes, because like after the capture, Julian shows up, which they changed so much of like that scene. So, well, okay, they don't change a lot of it, but like, Julian shows up and he says, cool clothes to Lee.
Whoa. Hey, cool outfit.
And Lee like runs off, whereas in the Japanese version, since Kiro has bitten Shaoran, like Yukito sees the bite wound and like holds his hand and makes Shaoran all blushy. I think the bite is in Card Captors,
But then again, you're just a stuffed animal.
Stuffed animal? Yeah.
but yeah, like
it is.
The aftermath of it is not in Card Captors, because after all, we can't have any of the gay in Card Captors.
No, it was too early for the big gay. They needed another decade.
And which is cut out of the other part of this episode too, or the other part of this epilogue, because this the extra scene you're talking about is at the school where Sakura is meeting Toya and Yukito. She's giving Yukito some snacks because in the sub, she's giving that to him for helping them get Rita inside, just carry her inside. Whereas I don't even remember what was the excuse for bringing him snacks in the dub.
Is Rita feeling better?
Fine. Thanks a lot for helping us out, Julian. For carrying Rita inside the house. Here.
What?
The note I had on it was just Sakura thanks Julian with a gift, which makes Lee upset, and then he runs off again. Like, that's how it plays in the Nelvana.
Huh? Hey!
And then, Shaoran, or Lee, who is mad that he's quote-unquote not getting credit for helping yesterday, kind of runs off in a huff, whereas in the sub, like in the sub, this is like another one of the gay scenes where Shaoran is sees that Sakura has given Yukito a gift, so he's like, I gotta give him a gift because he's got to compete with Sakura, and he gives him the candy that was in his pocket. So, and then he runs off because again he's like embarrassed. I don't know how to express my feelings. I don't know how to express my feelings.
Yeah, it's too hard.
So that interaction leads into the final scene with Sakura and Tomoyo, where in the sub, Tomoyo kind of tells Sakura, is like, I think the reason why Shaoran acts that way is because he also likes Yukito, which is why you get Sakura having that kind of freaked out expression. Whereas in Cardcaptors, the dub change is not addressing that at all and is simply Madison saying, hey, I'm going to put the footage of you catching thunder on my website. Jake.
I've got to upload some new video clips. But first, I have got to tell you something. The video clips are of you capturing the Thunder card last night. Just kidding. I needed something new for the homepage, and this'll be perfect.
Which I love that, because when she shows up and is like waving at her, she's like, I'm gonna redesign my website, you want to help me? Like, and I love that line because it's like such a dorky, nerdy line, but she's that side of her contrasts her like spoiled rich kid side so hard, which is like why I find her character so great.
Oh, absolutely. I stand for early 2001 techie rich Madison who can afford to not only have a personal computer but also affords the web domain just for uploading video, which you kids don't understand exactly what kind of big deal it would have been to be having your own video hosting site and server in 2001. Okay,
that's a lot of bandwidth. People because people who understand computers a lot more nowadays, like the standard computer back in 2001, like you would be lucky if you had like a gig of memory, like one. It was still in like megabytes, wasn't it?
Depending on, Madison absolutely could have afforded whatever the top of the line would have been, but that's what I'm saying. Even the top of the line wouldn't have been much. Yeah, megabytes of RAM. I don't know. Yeah, you probably were definitely getting close to gigabytes. We were 5 years away from YouTube at this point.
She, even with her in her penthouse, she was like starting the upload at like 6 p.m. and it was finishing like before school the next day. You know?
Yeah, and also like I keep saying 2001. Got to remember that the animation was done in 1997. So yeah, this is actually an even older computer.
Dial-up. She probably had DSL.
Oh, yes. Actually, no. Tomoyo does have a laptop. We see it in a later episode. When we're talking a laptop, we're talking like a 1998 like brick of a laptop. But what's the trope called? Technology marches on. Where it's one of those times where the show kind of like shows its age.
Fair enough. I love it though. I want to get all the old technology into one image eventually from this whole show. Yeah. But anyway, there is a Kuro's Corner this week.
There is, and I didn't write really anything down for it. I think this one talked about like his outfit, right?
The moment you've all been waiting for, and today's behind-the-scenes inside track just between you and me, Lowdown Scoop, is an exclusive on the Lee Kid's strange clothes. The kid wears these robes whenever he's going out to capture a Clow card. Now, everything means something. The colors, the symbols on the front, the shape of the hat, and even the jewel on the side is important. But they're secret, so I can't tell you why. It's kind of an ancestral thing, you know? Now, personally, I think Sakura's battle costumes are a little more happening, but, the Lee Kid doesn't pretend to be a fashion guy.
Yeah, which actually, from what we said earlier, it's kind of a continuation of, like, being a little insensitive. Because it's just Kiro making fun of his clothes the whole time. And is basically like, he's not a fashion guy. And then it gets into the sword. And then at the end, he's like, Sakura's costumes are better. It's like, it's just so mean to him specifically. So because of that, it made it stand out. Like, it's not like all the other Kuro's corners, I guess.
I gotta go back and watch this one. I don't remember him being that, like... the thing is, it's completely on brand for Kiro to be hostile to Lee. Even in the sub, like, Kiro and Shaoran do not get along. So, like, it's totally on brand for him to be dumping on Lee.
Yeah, that's how I read it. It was more like these two characters don't get along, so they're going to trash talk each other more than anything
They do
else.
not get along at all.
Yeah, but it did kind of make it a little funny. I don't think it's meant to be that serious, but I enjoyed that. It was not focused on a costume because, again, a lot of episodes, I remember her having a costume for every card, and that is clearly not the case.
No, actually, the further into the show we get, the more often Sakura is caught kind of just, she's got to catch the card in whatever she's wearing at the time. So the first 7 episodes, once Tomoyo was introduced, like, she was getting a costume per episode. But yeah, the further along the series goes, Sakura gets she captures a lot of, and whatever's in her closet. She does several captures in uniform.
I might be misremembering it, but the first Card Captors movie from my childhood has always been one of my favorite anime movies. Like, there's 3 Sailor Moon movies, there's Digimon movies, there's tons of all of them. Out of all of that, the first Card Captors movie was always the most interesting to me. Because because it's something about, like, they go to China and you get introduced to Lee's family and all of that. And they just, like, there's so much detail to, like, dig into in it for some reason. Plus, I love, like, like the scene when they're running through the market there.
Yeah.
That is, like, burned into my psyche.
Yeah, the animation in that movie is beautiful.
It's so gorgeous. So good. We should rate this episode.
Sure.
You go first.
How do I rate Double-Edged Sword? I would say... this one's interesting because, like I said, I kind of like this episode in general. Like, in general, I think this episode's kind of like a 4-ish. Like, it's not... I'd actually maybe say this is even like a 3.5. But the cuts or the changes that are made to it from Card Captors drop it down to 3. So it's like, this is a perfectly functional but kind of a struggling Card Captors episode a little bit, simply because of how aggressive they tried to make Sakura, yet the animation does not carry it for her.
I can see that. I say for me it's like a 2. Honestly, just because there's something about the sword design itself that is like, and like the way that it interacts and moves and stuff.
Yeah,
I felt like could be better.
We didn't really talk that much about the sword itself because it
which is probably because it was kind of blah.
Yeah, it's just like, it is an interesting. I don't know if it's necessarily an interesting design, but it's like, it's interesting that it's like all brass colored, but also it doesn't look like a really good sword because it's like,
it looks blunt and not sharp.
Yeah,
it's like thick.
Yeah, it's clearly modeled after a saber or a rapier, but like, so it's a straight blade, but it's also got like a cone cap on the end of it. So it's like, it's terrible as a slashing weapon because it has edges on both sides. It is actually a double-edged sword, but it's got edge on both sides, but also it's got this cone thing at the end, which actually would probably make it terrible for stabbing with. Like, it's...
Yeah.
I know there's YouTubers that are like, let's rate some like fictional weapons. I want to see someone talk about like the sword card as like kind of a trashy sword, like as swords go.
It's not the best design because they have other things like the shield and they all sort of have the same motif. But I just thought like the sword possessing someone and just making them aggressive was sort of the most obvious like choice for this type of a card, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to have like a sword fighting on its own. And by the way, like the sword only looks like this in its wild form. When Sakura uses the sword card later, it becomes cleaner. Like that brass look comes off the blade, so it's like an actual like steel blade. Although I think it still has the goofy cap on the end.
I do remember it being used, and there's kind of like a magical effect with it when she slashes. That probably is more of what it's actually supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's a sword that can cut through anything.
Yeah, but also I thought, like you were saying, the changes they made didn't fit with the animation, and it's increasingly obvious in this episode. And then it's getting very clunky, the edits about Lee and like why he's running away, and then they've cut so much of Julian out, but then suddenly he's here, and you know what I mean? So there was just a lot of like, I don't know, it felt more mixed to me. And then just enjoyability wise, it was like just okay.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing the difficulties that Cardcaptors had with trying to localize the series in a way that like they wanted to go with, where they removed the uncomfortable elements they didn't want to deal with. They tried to toughen up Sakura to make her and Lee's rivalry like more aggressive or like more compelling, I guess. I don't know. Like Pokemon was playing at the same time, and it was like Ash and Gary were at each other's throats anytime they were on screen together. But you only ever saw them like once every 30 episodes, whereas like Sakura and Lee have to be in every episode now. It's I agree. It's an element that I'm not sure I'm looking forward to for later episodes.
And also, just the color palette on this episode overall felt muted to me.
This is kind of a darker... You're right. This is a darker episode. I actually wrote, like... I think this is another one of, this was Makoto Koga, the animator who did episode 5, the jump card episode, which we also thought kind of looked iffy. But they do kind of share the same color palette, with them. So I think that's kind of, I would kind of blame that on a Koga thing.
Yeah.
So
I do have to say though, there were a few positives for it. For me, Zachary turning up again, that's fun. I liked anytime we get to see like a character specific choice. So like when they were choosing the brooches, Sakura choosing the heart, Madison choosing the cross, like there's some kind of a significance there, like that tells you a little bit about them in a more subtle way. I love stuff like that. And I thought the sword fight itself, when they were doing like the slashes, and with Rika specifically, her hair, I thought was animated well. So there are like a few things in here that kind of stand out in a good way. It's just overall as a whole package, there are much better episodes of Cardcaptors, and I think Cardcaptor Sakura.
Like I agree. Like this episode from an animation standpoint was very good. Like I said, they use the sword card fight a lot because it's a well done dynamic scene. But yeah, from a story perspective, especially with the cuts and changes that had to be made for Cardcaptors, yeah, you're right. Like 3 is too generous. I'll meet you at 2.5. I'm gonna give it that half for the sword fight because I still think it's good.
Yeah, whatever your reasons are yours. I want the people who listen to like rate it too in the comments, or if they're on YouTube or whatever, because I want to know when they disagree with us. You know, like it's boring if we all have the same opinion on things.
Yes, please comment, engage with the video, get those numbers up.
That too, but anyway. I don't know. I'm excited for the next one anyway. Like an episode like this, even at a 2.5, to me is still better than like most other shows. You know what I mean?
Well, Cardcaptor Sakura is just general. The next episode, I believe, is the sports episode. So that's a fun one.
I don't remember the card for it. What's the title?
I think that's the flower episode, but wait, hold on.
Oh, yeah. Love that.
I gotta check here. Let me give it. Undokai. Oh no, this is the episode that almost broke me.
Oh, good.
This is the Cardcaptors episode that almost broke me.
So it should be a good week then.
I'm looking forward to having that freak out again.